Good afternoon, everyone. It's lunchtime. Happy Friday. The weekend is here. It's probably not that different from the other days you've been having, but still, it's nice. My name is Pearl, and I am from Florida in the United States, so my accent is American. Hopefully, you all enjoy that. I am one of the teachers here at the Milano Montenero School here in Milan. So it's great. We're having wonderful weather today, and I hope you're having wonderful weather wherever you are. Hi, Johnny from Padua. Thanks for joining me again. I think I remember you from my previous Masterclass lesson. So thanks for coming back. Enjoy talking to you. I hope you had a nice week. So today we are going to talk about personal values. We're going to talk about, nice to see you too, Jenny. But so today we are going to talk about personal values. So it's a really great way we can get to know each other, talk about our beliefs and our principles. In this focus activity, we are going to talk about vocabulary related to values, hypothetical phrases, and talking about motivations. So before we begin, let's review some grammar. Hi, Elena. Thanks for watching. So before we begin, we're going to do a little question. So what grammar tense do we use when we talk about hypothetical situations? So what grammar tense, it's a long question. What grammar tense do we use when we talk about hypothetical situations? So Johnny, if you're still there. So what grammar tense do we use when we talk about hypothetical situations? It's kind of a difficult grammar tense. It's a lot of sections, a lot of things we need to remember. But if you know, please tell me. So what grammar tense do we use when we talk about hypothetical situations? So what is it? If you remember, let me know. I will give you an example. We use if, yes, past simple in conjunction with another one, but yes, so we call these conditional phrases, right? Conditionals, call it conditionals. We primarily use second conditional for hypothetical situations. We can use third conditional when we want to talk about a hypothetical situation in the past. Yes, there you go, conditional, yes. Yes, past perfect for hypothetical situations in the past. Yes, Janice, that would be our third conditional. Exactly. So we do use conditionals to talk about hypothetical situations. Great. Good job, guys. Let's continue. Great. Here we go. All right. So we have this man, which I'm sure you all know. So let's talk about Einstein's quote and tell me if you agree. So the first one says, there are only two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle, and the other is as though everything is a miracle. And the other quote says, when you are courting a nice girl, an hour seems like a second. When you sit on red hot cinders, a second seems like an hour. That's relativity. I think these are wonderful quotes. I think they're a little humorous, actually. So let's talk about the first one, the first quote. What do you think about the first quote? I think it's a rather nice quote. I think we can divide this quote to maybe if you're between an optimist and a pessimist or a realist, maybe. Do you agree with the first quote? There are only two ways to live your life. One as though nothing is a miracle, and the other is as though everything is a miracle. I don't necessarily agree with the quote. I think there's more than one way to live your life. But I think it's nice to think of it in this manner. If you live as though nothing is a miracle, I think you're quite the pessimist, and maybe things aren't as wonderful, or you don't appreciate certain things. But on the other hand, if you live as though everything is a miracle, I think it's very nice. It's a very optimistic and lighthearted way to think about your life. But when bad things happen, I think it affects you more to think that everything is a miracle. Bad things do happen and they are unavoidable. So, Johnny, what do you think about the quote? What is your opinion? Do you agree that we should live our life one of these ways? Everything is a miracle or nothing is a miracle? They're drastically different. They're one or the other. Maybe we should live somewhere in between. Some things are a miracle and some things are not. Maybe we should live our lives like we should hope for the best, but expect the worst. I agree with both these quotes. I don't agree so much with Einstein. Einstein was a very particular fellow. He was a very particular fellow. But why? Why, Johnny, do you agree with these quotes? I don't know. Why don't you agree? Then there could be validity in both, Yes. I consider my whole life as a miracle, and I try to accept everything that occurs. Oh, Johnny, that's a very nice way to live your life. You must be a very optimistic person to have that belief. That's very nice. It's very refreshing in this time. So that's good. Good. So I admire that. Yes. The second quote, I guess I can agree with. There are many things that are relative depending on your point of view or depending on the situation. But yes, I think sometimes when we have this saying in English that time flies when you're having fun. So I think when you want something to last a little bit longer or you're having an enjoyable time, it seems to pass by very quickly. I don't think there is only two ways to live your life, black and white. I agree, Ellen. I don't think there are only two ways to live your life with the first quote. Absolutely. I think there are many, many ways to live your life. So it's just very drastic, either one way or the other. Let's live in the gray area. I try to have a positive mental attitude. Good. That's good, Jen. It's always great to have that type of attitude. It makes life a little bit better. Right? Great. Second quote, I agree with for sure. As I said before, usually when you're having fun, time goes by quicker. Sometimes with these webinars, they're so much fun, we don't realize 50 minutes comes and goes. But it's important to stay positive. Yes, Lena, it is important to stay positive, right? I agree. Good. Second one. When you sit on red hot coals, yes. When you are not having fun or you are a little bit miserable, time does seem to go by quite slowly. I remember thinking this when I was in university, and I had to sit and listen during lectures, and an hour seemed like 4 hours because the lecture was not particularly exciting. So yes, I agree. But when I would see my friends or on the weekends or go on vacations, the time always went by quickly, and I always wanted it to last longer. Johnny, I remember a famous quote, or do I remember the author? Nice times fly and horrid times crawl. That is that's a great quote, and I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. Yes, nice times always fly by, and horrid times do crawl. Yes. The first month of quarantine of this situation seemed to crawl by quite quickly. Not quickly, crawl by quite slowly. It was March seemed like it lasted forever. But I don't know, April was a little bit more pleasant, maybe because the weather improved. So it is flying by a little bit quicker. So, but yes, I agree with this wonderful quote. I hope you guys agree with it too. I think it makes sense. What is crawl? Johnny, do you know what? Can you explain to Elena what is crawl? What is crawl? It's not really like walking. It's not flying either. So what is crawl? Johnny, maybe you can explain to Elena what is crawl. Crawl is what a baby does. That is my clue for you. What is crawl? Johnny, what is crawl? While we are waiting, hopefully for Johnny to explain. Yes, when you crawl, you go slowly. So exactly. So crawling, to crawl, the verb, is when a baby, for example, is learning to walk. They are walking on their hands and their knees. So when they're on the floor crawling, so that is to crawl. So which is usually slower than walking, of course. On four legs, yes, exactly. Exactly. So you're crawling, you're on four legs, your hands and your legs, your knees, really, and your like what babies do when they're learning to walk. To crawl. Great. So horrid times crawl by. Yes, they go by very slowly compared to walking. So the definitions we have today are, just three. Integrity, compassion, and freedom. So in your own words, how would you define these words? How would you define these words? Integrity, compassion, and freedom, which are all lovely words, by the way. These are all great words. So in your own words, how would you define these? I like to think I have a lot of integrity. I like to believe that I do. Compassion, not sure if I have a lot of that. I think I have an acceptable amount of compassion. And freedom is a very important value in America. I'm sure maybe you guys know this. Freedom is taken very seriously in America. I think it's a little exaggerated how much freedom is valued in America, because there's freedom in a lot of places in the world, but Americans are particularly very sensitive about this. So in your own words, how would you define integrity, compassion, and freedom? Good. Elena says integrity, to be honest, strong moral principles. When your behavior is Janet says integrity, when your behavior is always in line with your moral values. Exactly. 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 Good. They say a firm adherence to a code of especially moral or artistic values. Good. So, Elena or Johnny, do you think you have a lot of integrity? Well, we have integrity. Do you think you have a lot of integrity? I like to think I do. I think most people like to think they do. Do you think you have a lot of integrity? That's a great question. It's a great word too. What a wonderful word. But while I'm waiting for that answer, compassion. How would you define compassion? I don't know if I'm super compassionate. I don't have a lot of compassion. I think I'm okay. I have a good amount of compassion. I think I have more compassion for certain things compared to other things. I think everyone thinks they do. I agree, Ellen. I think everyone thinks they have integrity. I try to respect my integrity. Wonderful, Johnny. Johnny says compassion, to take care or to have love for other people. Yes, I think that encompasses, it's included compassion. Helena says sympathy or concern for others. Exactly. Good job, guys. Sympathetic consciousness of others' distress together with a desire to alleviate it. So yes, if you have compassion, you sympathize with people and you also want to help them. Remember that compassion is the noun, the adjective is compassionate. So compassion is the noun, and if you have a lot of compassion, then you are compassionate. Right? Compassionate. Don't forget, sympathetic is a false friend in Italian. Remember, sympathetic. When you're sympathetic, you can understand people's feelings or emotions a little bit easier than others, maybe if you're sympathetic. So it doesn't really mean the same in Italian, so don't get that confused. Freedom. Oof. How would you define freedom? How would you define freedom? It's a great value. They're all great. These are all great words. Freedom. To be free is the opposite of quarantine. Yes, Johnny. To be free is the opposite of the quarantine. Yes, or political rights. And so it's really funny that you mentioned that, Johnny, that when you, is the opposite of quarantine, because many Americans now are saying that quarantine is a violation of their freedom, which I think they are exaggerating because it's for the greater good. But, Americans are a little dramatic. Or a political right. Yes, it is a political right. Elena says freedom, autonomy, choice, and power to act and speak. Yes, to do what you want. To do what you want when you want. And to think. Yes. Right, to do what you want when you want. Olga says, hi, Olga. To not depend on anyone. Yeah, usually when you're free, it can include that when you don't depend on anyone. Absolutely. So they say a quality or state of being free. It's always very funny when they use a part of the word in the definition. But or political right, exactly, Johnny. A political right or to be free. Good. So now we are going to read about a very strong woman, I think, about Malala. Hopefully you are all familiar with Malala. She's an activist. I'm going to share my screen, share a different screen. Oh, that's my face. All right. So we're going to read about Malala. For those of you who don't know, Malala is a activist for education. It started off as for women, but I think now she's moved on for education to be available for everyone, which is a great cause. Very admirable. Trying to organize my screen before I read. All right. Malala, I'm going to butcher her last name, Yousafzai. I don't remember. Malala Y, I don't know how to pronounce her last name, was born in the Swat Valley of Pakistan in 1997. The daughter of an educator, she developed a fierce passion for learning. In 2009, however, the Taliban gained power in the Swat Valley and imposed harsh rule based on their interpretation of Islam. Among other changes, they started restricting girls' education. Malala began secretly blogging about concerns that her school would be attacked, continuing even after her identity was revealed. In 2011, Malala won Pakistan's first National Youth Peace Prize and began to advocate for girls' education on a national scale. In October of the following year, a masked man from the Taliban entered Malala's school bus and shot her and two other female students. Malala was taken to a hospital in England where she stayed for months to recover. The attack did not stop Malala's activism, rather, it boosted support for her mission. In 2013, she and her father co-founded the Malala Fund to work toward all girls attending school and receiving a high-quality education. In 2014, Malala shared the Nobel Peace Prize with another human rights activist. In her acceptance speech, she said, "In this 21st century, we must be able to give every child quality education, not just the politicians and the world leaders. We all need to contribute. Me, you, we. It is our duty." Malala has inspired activists across the globe to work towards a more just and peaceful world. How will you join her? Elena says she is an inspirational and strong young woman. Yes, she is. I agree. She is, and she's very inspirational, and she's a great role model for everyone, right? So I'm going to make this a little bigger so maybe you guys can see. Here you go. It's clearer for you. So, any questions on vocabulary? There is a lot of great words in there. Some of them are underlined. So we have fierce, passion, harsh, advocate, boosted. So she developed a fierce passion. So what does that mean? A fierce, when something is fierce, like Beyonce, like Sasha Fierce. That was her stage name. So what is a fierce passion? What does that mean when we say she has a fierce passion, or maybe a fierce anger, or a fierce hatred? Or I'm always thinking about negative words. Boosted. Boosted. Yes. What does boosted mean? Johnny, Olga, do you know what these words mean? Boosted. Boosted is a great word. Yes, fierce means very strong. Exactly. Fierce is a very strong passion, right? Very strong, sassy. Right? Good. Boost. Fierce is very strong and fiery. Yes, it is. Very strong and fiery. Something that burns bright, right? Burning passion. Ooh, great word too. Boosted. So boosted, increased. Yes. So to boost something is like a strong or sudden increase, right? So to boost, it boosted support for her mission. So it increased, a strong increase of support. Great. Harsh. What does harsh mean? Something is very harsh. Like sometimes in America, there are very harsh winters. What does harsh mean? Great word. We don't have harsh winters in Milan, but you do have harsh summers. Harsh, strong in a negative way. Yeah, severe or rigid. Yeah, severe or rigid. Yeah, harsh, exactly. If you advocate for something, if you're an advocate or to advocate. Wait, what does that mean? An advocate should begin to advocate for girls' education on a national scale. What does that mean? Yes, there were very harsh summers in Milan. They are quite unenjoyable. I hate the summers in Milan. They're terrible, and it's coming. Summer in Milan is coming, and I am unprepared. I don't think I'll ever be prepared for summer in Milan. To advocate, to fight for something you believe in, right? Exactly. When you advocate something, you fight for something you believe in, you strongly support. Wonderful. Good. If there are any other questions on vocabulary, please let me know. I'm going to give you a few seconds to look at the screen before I change back to the original slide. So if there are any other questions on vocabulary or phrases, please let us know. Let me know. Or let us know, because maybe your fellow students can help you. All right. Maybe I'll just read it. Okay. So attending like frequent. So in Italy, in Italian, I believe, when you go to a school, you use frequent. We frequent something. But when we talk about schools in English, we say attending. So it's your Italian equivalent of saying how you frequent a place. We would say attending. So yes, good question, Elena. Wonderful. So from reading this text about Malala, what do you think her values are? What do you think Malala's values are, in your opinion? What can you gauge from this text? What her values are? Another false friend. Yes, frequent is another false friend in Italian. I know. False friends are terrible, and we just need to remember them. But the more false friends you know, the better your English will be. Haha, yeah. Great. So from the text, what do you think Malala's values are? What do you think the values, Malala's values are? What do you think? I think she has great values. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I think one of her values is education. She values education, which is a great value. I too value education as well. It was something that was highly valued in my household when I was a child. Education was always very important to my family. So we can say education was a good value for her. Any other, what else do you think her other values are? She has integrity. Yes, she has a lot of integrity. She held strong to her beliefs, even though she was almost killed. She kept going. She didn't stop. She stood in the face of danger, which is quite admirable. She has a lot of integrity. Johnny, what do you think her values are? What do you think? She has integrity, she has education, she has courage. She has courage. She's very brave. What else? Who else can she's very brave. She's determined. She is a strong woman who reached to make people aware about important issues. So we don't want to say reach. She's a strong woman who, I'm trying to think of a better word. She's a strong woman who was able to make people aware, who succeeded in making people aware about important issues. Yeah, she's a strong woman. I think she probably values equality, especially between men and women, of course, and maybe probably between different class systems, especially because in I guess Pakistan, women weren't allowed to go to school or her school. So she definitely values equality for everyone. All children should be able to have access to education. Right? Exactly. Great. So now I'm going to switch back. That's not face again. So switch back to our previous slide. Oops, sorry. Notes. So if we continue to support Malala's cause, she will be even more successful. If I were Malala, I would speak to the government. If Malala hadn't started her work, we wouldn't have been inspired to help her cause. Great. Gianni says, I consider Malala and Greta as important reference points for all of us. I agree. They are important reference points. They are great examples and role models for many people of all ages and sexes. They are great role models and reference points. I absolutely agree. So on the text, we have examples of first, second, and third conditional. Wow, wonderful. Look at those grammar tenses. So If we continue to support Malala is our first conditional, right? Second one, if I were Malala, is our second conditional. And our last one, if Malala hadn't started her work, is our third conditional. So wonderful conditional. So in the chat, I want you to create your own conditional sentences about Malala, you know, something similar. If I were Malala, maybe, or if you wanted to talk about if we can her future. So make in the chat, write conditional sentences about Malala. Like, for example, I will write one. If I had been Malala on that school bus, if I had been Malala on that school bus, I don't know if I would have been as brave as she was. It was the third conditional. If I had been Malala on that school bus, I don't know if I would have been as brave as she was. So what are some conditional sentences we can write? If I were Malala, I think Malala is actually currently continuing her education. And I think she's doing a pretty good job. So if I were Malala, I would maybe travel more to different countries to spread awareness. Elena says, if there were more people like Malala and Greta, the world would be more peaceful. Yes, great conditional, right? A nice hypothetical second conditional sentence. If there were more people like Malala and Greta, the world would be more peaceful. Yes, I agree. If we didn't have Malala, the world would be a much worse world. Yes, I agree. Yes, people like Malala and Greta. Yes, young women shaping our futures. I think if we continue to support Malala, if we continue to follow Malala's lead, if we continue to follow her lead, or we will also help make the world a better place, right? If we follow her example, if we teach these values to our future generations, the world would be a better place. Absolutely. Her quote, all I want is an education and I am afraid of no one. What a wonderful quote. What a strong woman. Great job. Good. Any other conditionals? Maybe a third conditional. Make it a little bit more difficult. Third conditional. If Malala hadn't won the Nobel Peace Prize, maybe you can mix a conditional, mix a third and second conditional. Those mixing second and third conditional is actually quite common in English. So if you're able to do that, very impressive. If Malala hadn't won the Nobel Peace Prize, if Malala hadn't won the Peace Prize, I don't think she would have cared. Johnny, if I were Malala, I would go on to intensify my efforts. To intensify my efforts. Go on intensify. No, that's fine. I would go on intensifying the effort of her efforts. If there hadn't been the internet, I wouldn't be so up to date about these inspirational people. Yes. If there hadn't been internet, I wouldn't be so up to date about these inspirational people. Good job, Elena. We have mixed conditionals. The first half is our third conditional, and the second one is our second conditional. If there hadn't been the internet, I wouldn't be so up to date about these inspirational people. Yes. Wonderful. Conditionals are hard. All right. So, review, more or less. All right. So it's not hard to make decisions once you know what your values are. Roy E. Disney. Oh, no, I was thinking it was Disney World, but it's not the same because Walt Disney. Walt Disney. Oh, maybe. Do you agree? What values can help you make decisions? Good. So it's not hard to make decisions once you know what your values are. Do you agree? Johnny says, if Malala hadn't started her job, I wouldn't be aware about the current. I wouldn't be aware of the current situations. I wouldn't be aware of. So we use of with aware, the preposition of. I wouldn't be aware of the current situation. But good. Yeah, absolutely. That is true. So mixing conditionals. Great. Good. So with this quote, do you agree it's not hard to make decisions once you know what your values are? I don't 100% agree with this quote. I think knowing what your values are definitely helps make decisions, but sometimes decisions are difficult regardless if you know what your values are, I think. I think it's definitely hard to make decisions that are against your values if you need to do them to help someone else. Unless, or if you have to make a decision where your values contradict someone. Like if you had to make a decision about lying, but you're an honest person, but this lie would help another person, but you're compassionate. So I think those type of decisions are very difficult. Good. And that says, I think it depends about the decision. I think it depends on, so we use the preposition on always with depends. I think it depends on the decisions. Yes, I agree. It depends on the decisions. It's always difficult to make decisions, whatever your values are, whatever your values are. So are at the end. I agree. It always is always difficult to make decisions. Some decisions are very black and white. They are very easy and you can make them if you know what your values are. But again, there are some difficult decisions. Sometimes decisions cause your values to clash and you have to make a decision on which one is more important. Good. So when you all make a decision, Ellen and Johnny, when you guys make a decision, what values do you rely on? Or what values help you make your decisions? What values? So do you do what's responsible? Do you do what's logical? Do you follow your heart? Are you more follow your gut? You follow your instinct, intuition? So when you make decisions, what values do you rely on? Of course, again, it depends on the type of decision that you need to make. But if you had to make a big decision, what values do you usually rely on? I'm trying to think. When I moved to Italy, that was a rather large decision, a large change. And I, of course, had to rely on my values. Elena says respecting others people's feelings and freedom of choice. Great. That is something we definitely do consider. It's a great thing to consider when you make a decision, especially if you know your decision affects other people. Absolutely. It's very self-aware. You're considerate. That is the word. I just remember now. If you are considerate, then yes, you do take into account other people's feelings and freedom of choice. What other values do you? So when I moved to Italy, what values helped me? Freedom was definitely a value I considered. The freedom to choose to come here was definitely one of them. In general, I tried to use my head, not my heart. I know, but sometimes your heart, it just gets in the way, doesn't it, Johnny? In general, I agree. I think I am the same, Johnny. In general, I tried to use my head and not my heart, but sometimes logically, I think it would have been better if I stayed in America, logically. I used my head. But my heart was like, no, come to Italy. You loved it so much. So I don't know what, I guess whatever made me happy at the time. My happiness was the value I relied on, what made me happy. What is good for your mental health? Absolutely. What is good for your mental health? Sometimes it's hard to do what's right for your mental health, right? Elena says, I want to listen to my head, but my heart is very loud sometimes. It does happen. It sounds like you're a Pisces. If you believe in that stuff, which maybe I do. Great. These are all good values. I try to be more logical than emotional, but sometimes it just doesn't happen. Good. All right, review. Firm adherence to a code, especially moral or artistic values, sympathetic consciousness of others' distress, together with a desire to alleviate it, the quality or state of being free, a political right. So these are just reviews of what we said earlier today. So you remember integrity, compassion, and freedom, which I'm sure you guys remembered. So I'm going to move past this. Oops, sorry. These two questions. What are your personal values? Discuss with your partner and rank your top 5 and give reasons. Or why do you think people develop different priorities? Yes, these are great questions. Tell me about yourself. Well, number 2 is an interesting question because, you like to think a lot of people have integrity or they're very honest, or maybe everyone should have similar values, but sometimes people don't. So why do you think people develop different priorities? Why do you think people have different values or prioritize different values? Why do you think that happens? That's a good thing. So I think we all we have a lot of integrity, but maybe integrity is not in the same level for every one of us. Johnny has great advice for you, Elena. He says, if there is a big fight between your head and your heart, or your heart and your head, you can flip a coin. Great. Actually, flipping a coin is a great way to figure out what you really want. So while you flip it in the air, and if you're hoping for one, then you know what you really want. Right? I've done that sometimes, and I was disappointed in the result. So then I knew that what I really wanted was the other side. So it's a great way to discover what you really want, is to flip a coin. But if you really truly don't know, then you have a decision that you already made, right? That was, I didn't need to flip a coin to come to Milan. I wanted to come to Italy, so that was great set. I think people develop different priorities from their experiences. Absolutely, I agree, right? So your experiences, the things you go through in life definitely change your perspective about certain things. Maybe if you were lied to a lot in the past, or people were very dishonest, maybe trust and honesty are really high values for you, higher than others, right? So yeah, absolutely. I think it depends on your experiences, and I also think it depends on maybe how you were brought up, how you were raised by your parents, right? My parents valued education a lot. Parents valued education and discipline. And I value education as well, maybe not as much as my parents do, but I do value education. So I think it also, depends on your experiences, depends on how you were raised, for sure. The people who you surround yourself with also can affect your values, for sure. Right? Great. So back to the first question. Discuss with your partner and rank, what are your top 5 personal values? What are your top 5 personal values? Or tell me what values you look for in a partner or in your friends. So what are your top 5 values, and what are the values you look for in your friends? Johnny says, our minds are structured in different ways based on the inputs we received in our life. Yeah, I absolutely agree. Our minds are different. We go through different experiences. We are exposed to different things, different stimuli, and it affects how we are. Absolutely. Everyone is going to have different priorities or prioritize their values in a different order. Absolutely. I agree. Some people I know that think cleanliness is actually very, very important. My sisters don't value that. Great. So, what are your top values? What's for you personally, or what are the values you look for in other people? Like, for example, I value honesty and loyalty. Um, in general, for myself and for my friends and people in my life. Honesty, Johnny, honesty, integrity, absence of arrogance. Yes, that is a wonderful set of priorities or values. Absolutely. What else? I need more honesty, integrity, absence of arrogance. I think open-mindedness is also something I value as well. Well, people in my life to be very open-minded to different things, cultures, ideas, people's opinions. Respect, selflessness, and kindness. Oh yeah, kindness. Kindness is important. I don't know why I didn't think about that first. Oops. It is important. So maybe it's I don't prioritize kindness at the top of my list. I think my top five are probably loyalty, honesty, open-minded. Three, open-mindedness, willingness to listen to other opinions. Absolutely. What did I say? Loyalty, honesty, open-mindedness. I think kindness, of course, is always a really, really good one. What else? Integrity, yeah. I feel like everyone has integrity. Respect, yes. Respect. You were just being polite, having manners, I think would be a nice value. Helping others, selflessness. Yes, these are all wonderful values. I think most people think we have these values. All right. All right. We can briefly discuss some of these questions before we head out. Over to you, which means back to you guys. Think about Malala. Malala, why do you think she did what she did? Think about decisions you have made. Why did you make those decisions? What influenced you? What about any future decisions you might have to make? All right. I think we all know why Malala did what she did, because she valued education and equality, and she wanted girls in her country and all over the world to receive access to education. Man, I'm hungry. But yes, why did you make those decisions? So think about the decisions you've made. Why did you make those decisions? What influenced you? When I think about the decisions I've made in my life and what influenced me, I want to say most of the decisions, the big decisions I can remember, were a result of doing something that made me happy. I just wanted to be happy, and the decisions I made usually were just an attempt to make me happy and fulfill dreams. I was a little bit more ambitious when I was younger. So the decisions I made and what influenced me was usually just because I wanted to be happy, or because I wanted my parents to be happy. So happiness was a very important value for me. So I did things to make myself happy or to make my parents happy. The major decisions I made in my life. When I was younger, most of the decisions I made were to make my parents happy. And now that I'm a little bit older, most of the decisions I make are to make myself happy. It's very hedonistic, but it's true. They weren't too thrilled of me coming to Italy, but I did it because I wanted to and it made me happy. Oh no, it's 50. We're out of time. Dang it. I didn't get to see your answers. Oh, Elena says, when I was younger, other people's opinions influenced my decisions a lot more. Now I don't give other people's opinions importance. That is a good point. Yes, same. When I was younger, I cared a lot more about what people thought and their opinions. They had more weight. But now I don't care. Or I care a little bit. I don't care as much. I guess it depends whose opinions is I'm considering. But great. Wonderful. So thanks for watching me today on this Friday. I really enjoyed the lesson. I hope you all did too. Johnny says, whenever I change my job decision, it influenced my life positively. That's wonderful. Great. So thank Johnny, Elena, thank you for joining me today. I hope you both have a wonderful rest of the day and a lovely weekend. And hopefully I will see you guys again. We will see. You know. All right. Bye, guys. Have a good weekend.